Good evening and welcome to The Probe. Well, it remains a proposal for now, but it's generated a lot of discussions everywhere. Is it actually because it is doable, but further details needed for implementation, or because there are doubts about its feasibility considering the insufficient infrastructure? And the question many have also asked is whether the ailing Ghanaian economy is ready to run 24 hours. But are some sectors in this country not already running 24 hours? And is this proposal new? These and more are many questions. Also, among them is whether we are on a sloganeering spree, which usually characterizes the season. What must change if we all agree it is the way to go? Tonight, we are probing the 24-hour economy put forward by the NDC and its flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, during his Building Ghana tour, which he started. He's been talking about introducing, quote, we will introduce a 24-hour economy with incentives and tax breaks for manufacturers who will run extra shifts to create more room for employment. So this came up during the Building Ghana tour. Some further details have been provided along the line which we are going to interrogate tonight, including the operation of a 3-shift system by industries and commercial entities on daily basis. Businesses will be encouraged to sign up with tax incentives. There are some measures that will be put in place, including lowering electricity tariffs for after peak hours, and then also special meters will be employed to provide time of use tariff to deliver cheaper power to such businesses during hours of 10 and 6 a.m. We are told that 24-hour economy initiative will be voluntary. That's some of the details that have been provided. Of course, there have been some criticism of this particular, proposal that has been put forward. We're hearing from Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is also the flag bearer of the NPP, and amongst them, he says that the 24-hour economy cannot be legislated by the government, and that there are many businesses already working for 24 hours, and that the track record of John Dramani Mahama doesn't show innovative thinking amongst others, and the fact that the idea may not have been well thought through. These are some of the criticisms that have come up so far. You've heard some jokes also around on this, but these and more are matters we'll get into. So these are some of the issues that have been raised by the flag bearer of the NPP so far. Yeah, we go on to the next slide, and also we put it side by side with the night economy and 24-hour economy. We've heard the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, talk about night economy, which is basically focused on improving sports and tourism at night, and then also this particular shift system and by industries and commercial entities on daily basis. So we put both side by side. Really, will it be a 24-hour economy or is just a night economy? You are the judge of that. We are going to interrogate all these issues tonight here on The Probe. Now going forward, and this is put together by the Joy News Research Desk, we go forward. The issues about the London's night economy, for instance, we'll be comparing to countries like UK, where London is also doing this. The night economy, we are told the contribution in gross value added 17.7 billion to 26.3 billion pounds in 2014. Then the projected growth rate value is 1.63 billion yearly by 2026. That's the projection. Jobs created, direct and indirect, 1.26 million jobs, and then projected growth rate in terms of jobs, 66,000 additional jobs yearly. That's the case for London's night economy. We are yet to get details of our 24-hour economy proposals and what the figures includes when it comes to this particular proposal that we want to implement in Ghana. Well, my guest will be helping us on when we are going to get these figures. The case of Sydney, for instance, in Australia, Sydney's nighttime economy value in 2017, $27.2 billion. Jobs created, 234,000 jobs. That's what we know when it comes to their nighttime economy as well. Let's look at other cases that we know. Let's look at the United States. We look at Japan, South Korea. Cities like New York and Las Vegas are renowned for their vibrant day and night life and continuous activities. Well, but infrastructure systems have been put in place there. What is our situation? Are we going to go at a snail pace? Are we going nationwide? Are we starting with a number of cities? These are key questions that most of you have been asking. The issue about Singapore, the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, for instance, London, particularly in central areas, sustains a thriving nightlife with select services operating continuously. The issue about transportation, pharmacies, healthcare, amongst others, contribute to increased job opportunities. Dubai, which many people refer to, the city of Dubai is internationally recognized for its 24-hour economy, characterized by activities and services available around the clock. Would that be the way to go for us? Are we looking at nationwide? We are looking at cities. How many jobs are we hoping to create, amongst others? You want to stay with me? My guest is the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sammy Gyamfi. He joins me in studio. I also take inputs from industry persons and experts in the field, as well as await the final policy document that will outline the guiding principles and detailed implementation for this 24-hour economy proposal. I am Emefa Apau, and this is The Probe. We're live on the Joy News channel on Joy 99.7 FM. We're on myjoyonline.com, DSTV channel 421, GoTV 125, and all our social media platforms. This is your show. You ought to participate with your questions, your contributions. Very much welcome. A quick turnaround, then we get talking. Please do stay with me.
Ghana must work more efficiently. The restless quest for efficiency to solve our financial and unemployment problems is why I have emphasized that more than the traditional and regular methods of economic activity would be needed to revitalize this economy. My next administration, inshallah, will pursue projects and programs to transform Ghana into a fully fledged 24-hour economy by optimizing available resources. I acknowledge the massive support for the idea of a 24-hour economy by the Trades Union Congress, civil society organizations, journalists, lecturers, labor consultants, CEOs, and captains of industry, personnel from the creative arts industry, drivers, traders, and the teeming unemployed youth of Ghana. God willing, from 7th January 2025, we shall implement a series of transition measures to address the economic decline and set Ghana on the path to recovery. The proposed 24-hour economy forms a part of NDC's vision to build the Ghana we want together.
And you had the man himself, John Dramani Mahama, this week at the CEO's cocktail, providing further details on this. He raises questions about the abandonment of the 40-year development plan, which was put together under his regime, and we've taken up the Ghana Beyond Aid, amongst others. I have that document. We'll be taking a look at it and more right here on The Probe. We are looking at the 24-hour economy, and the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sammy Gyamfi, is with me in the studios. Thank you so much for joining us on The Probe. Been a while. This whole year, I think we haven't been on The Probe, have we?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we've spoken on other platforms.
Yes, of course we have. Well, good to have you in the studios once again. Everything okay? We should relax and start.
We have hope that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is coming to rescue us and to address the hydra-headed challenges confronting the people of this country with many policies and programs, such as the 24-hour economy we are about to discuss. So that alone gives us hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that Ghana can be restored back on the path of true development and progress with the right leadership.
I see a number of paraphernalia out there on 24-hour economy. Well, we'll be delving into some of these issues and more. But before then, this week, or is it last week, you held a press conference, at least, a moment of truth, and we're tackling the issue about the LI that was supposed to be tabled in Parliament. Just after that, you were hoping to go on a protest and asking Ghanaians to do so. There was a withdrawal of that particular LI, that announcement that was made by the Information Minister, and they add that they are a listening government. Reason why they've done that?
Well, it's good that the advocacy that was championed by the minority caucus led by the Honorable Dr. Ato Forson and the National Democratic Congress as a party has yielded results. I must say that we were not alone in this struggle at all, but we had other key stakeholders like the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, FABAC, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and other stakeholders who spoke up against this regressive, law, which has the potential to collapse a lot of businesses in this country. A bad law that has the tendency to breed corruption and cronyism. We held that press conference, like you said, a Moment of Truth press conference, thanks to multimedia, despite media and other media organizations. It was broadcast live to Ghanaians all across the globe and in fact to the world. And we're not surprised at all that government felt the heat and decided to beat a retreat. That is the right thing to do. They should not have introduced this LI in Parliament in the first place. And it is our hope that they will completely abandon this idea, engage industry players more extensively, and come up with proper, solutions to the issues confronting us relative to the instability of the exchange rate and the need for us.
Well, it turns out our agreement with the IMF would not even allow us to have such a law.
That's a point we highlighted during the press conference. Many didn't know about that, but we took the pains to research and put that information out. Initially, they wanted to deny, but eventually the IMF's attention was drawn to this because of the sunlight we have shed on the matter, and the necessary directives have been given. But I'm not even looking at it from the standpoint of the IMF. I'm looking at the many businesses, many companies who import the affected 24 products like rice, like sugar, like clothing and apparels, vehicles, and so on and so forth, who were going to be made to pay fees for licenses, license renewal, and their fate, their destinies, the future of their businesses was going to be determined by an all-powerful minister who had who was being clothed with excessive discretionary powers by this law to determine who to issue a license and who not to issue a license, which license to revoke at any time. All he has to do is to give a reason, and even to do what is called quantitative restriction of certain imports into the country. That was going to be a recipe for chaos. It was going to be a recipe for corruption, cronyism, and state capture. And we are happy that our struggle has the other results. But we need to be vigilant because we know these people.
So is it in its entirety, or you would want them to engage further and bring it back?
We want them to engage further and come up with more strategic and innovative ideas as to how we can support indigenous companies, because there is the need for us to protect local companies. That is a view that we all share. The how is the problem. We were of the opinion that this particular law was not the right approach of achieving that, and the law was rather going to create a problem, a bigger problem of corruption, based on the history of this country. And I think we adduce all the necessary facts to support our argument, such that any discerning mind, any objective mind who listened to that press conference, we are sure came to the conclusion that this law was bad for Ghana. So we're happy. And it shows the power we have as a people. Many a times people look down on, press conferences and various advocacies and actions aimed at bringing pressure to bear on the government to stop a particular course of action or to do something. But this is yet another evidence that if we come together as a people and we speak up against the rots in the system, the ills of government, we can get change even before the 7th of December 2024.
And don't forget these words, because they will definitely come back at some point. Indeed. Well, but let's talk about 24-hour economy. Speaking of businesses and the economy, this was an idea that was mooted. At least we heard the former president during his Building Ghana tour, and it came up, and subsequently some details are trickling in. The concern is we don't have all the full details when it comes to this particular proposal. But let's talk about 24-hour economy. From where you sit, what exactly is it going to entail?
Okay, so when we say 24-hour economy, we are talking about a deliberate intervention by the next NDC Mahama government to create an enabling environment that will encourage and support certain public institutions, businesses and companies to operate round the clock 24/7. That is what it's about. It is not going to be a chance event. We are not going to say that any business which thinks that operating 24/7 will be profitable is free to do so, so you're on your own. This is going to be a deliberate intervention by the government to create the enabling environment that will make it possible for a lot more companies, businesses, and public institutions to operate around the clock. And as President Mahama indicated in the tape you just played, this is not a mere political rhetoric. It's important to make that point. Neither is it a mere slogan calculated for votes. It is a well thought through strategy which has its roots in the 40-year development plan which was put together under the ex-Wal NDC Mahama government and published in 2018, I believe. It was captured in our 2020 manifesto, specifically on page 105.
Okay.
So this is not something that we just came by.
How come premium was not put on it at that time?
Well, maybe the time for that idea had not come. A wise man once said that nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. I believe that the 24-hour economy is an idea whose time has come. We spoke about it back then, but it didn't gain much traction as we are experiencing now. So I needed to make that point so that those watching us or listening to us will know that this is not just a mere rhetoric like Ghana Beyond Aid and so on. This is a well thought through policy. If you check the 40-year development plan, it is there. If you check page 105 of our 2020 manifesto, it is there. And is a product of extensive consultations and engagement with various stakeholders that this is the direction the country must go. Well, now, it's also important, MFA, to make the point that the 24-hour economy is not an end in itself. It is a strategy to achieve an end. It is a strategy to achieve a certain objective. What is that objective? That objective is the overarching vision of the nation builder, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to transform Ghana from an import-dependent country into a self-sufficient and export-led economy. That is the overarching vision of this 24-hour economy. The 24-hour economy strategy will be the main driver of this strategy. And so the rationale is simple. We are saying that for us to see true transformation that deliver prosperity for all, true economic transformation that delivers decent, well-paying jobs for the people of this country, we need to invest in the productive sectors of the economy with the aim of achieving self-sufficiency and achieving an export-led economy. And that is why President Mahama has said that to achieve this, we're going to prioritize agribusinesses and agro-processing. We're going to prioritize modernization and mechanization of agriculture. We're going to prioritize manufacturing and value addition. We're going to prioritize, the provision of the necessary incentives for the private sector to thrive, for them to play their role in this economy. But we are saying that after all is said and done, after we roll out all these policies, we will still not be able to achieve our intended objective if we run the traditional 8-hour work system, because 8 hours is wholly inadequate for us to attain the needed level of efficiency and productivity and growth we need to create sustainable jobs and prosperity for the people of this country. God has given us 24 hours. Why do we have to waste 16 hours and only work 8 hours when all the advanced economies operate various degrees of 24-hour economies? So what we are saying is that under this overarching vision of transforming Ghana into a self-sufficient and export-led economy, all the interventions, policies we are going to roll out must lead to a situation where businesses, companies, and certain public services run 24/7.
Okay, so the issues about
productivity.
We'll get into the details because there are a lot of questions that need answers. The issues about the infrastructure, the security, issues about safety, all those issues have come up. But first clarify for me, once you start rolling it out, will it be nationwide or you're starting with specific cities all capitals or regions before it starts, or it's nationwide?
It's going to be a nationwide policy.
Nationwide.
It's going to be a nationwide policy, and that will be clearly contained in the comprehensive blueprint of the policy that we will be putting out, as President Mahama has indicated. You see, there are specific, I started off by telling you that this is going to be a specific...
And nationwide, the concern is about the demands, for instance. Other countries that we are copying
let's go step by
are
step.
not going
let's
nationwide.
Go step by step.
Okay.
Because first of all, we must understand what government intends to do to make the 24-hour economy a reality. If you understand that, then you would agree with me that there cannot be any geographical restriction to the...
So what do you intend to do to achieve that nationwide 24-hour economy?
Is to create an atmosphere of security and safety. And President Mahama has said that not only will we, create this atmosphere of security and safety with our state security agencies, but we are going to have a well-regulated and monitored private security architecture, which is going to ensure round-the-clock operations of businesses in a very safe environment. So security and safety is number one on the agenda.
We're not going to empower the current existing state security that we have.
That will be the starting point. Okay. But private security arrangements are also very key. And I can expatiate on that, but let me just outline for you the specific incentives, measures that the next NDC Mahama government will put in place to make the 24-hour economy possible. So,
security,
an atmosphere of security and safety. The second one has to do with the provision of reliable and cheaper power.
Okay.
If you check the overhead cost of businesses and companies in this country, one of the key items affecting them, one of the key items that doesn't make them competitive, one of the key items that increases their cost of production is the high cost of electricity. You understand? And so President Mahama is saying that all participating companies in the 24-hour economy policy will be given smart meters, which will be calibrated to charge lesser tariffs during non-peak hours during the night, based on the time of use tariff system. A time of use tariff system is simply a tariff system that makes you pay for power based on the day of the week and the time of the day you're consuming that power. And so, instead of allowing the power which is produced in the night to go idle, for us to complain about excess capacity and capacity charges and so on, let us have a deliberate policy that encourages businesses and companies to operate 24/7 in the night, and during these periods, let them, through a time of use tariff system, pay a relatively lower tariff, so that at least we get something for the power which otherwise would have lied idle. That's the second point. The third one has to do with what President Mahama has described as favorable tax policies, particularly significant tax incentives aimed at reducing the cost of operation of businesses and to ensure that they stay competitive. The tax burden, every government needs taxes to operate. We are not going to say that we will not introduce taxes. But the point is that most of the taxes that we have imposed on businesses and companies in this country are regressive and counterproductive. That has to be improved. And we need to create a congenial atmosphere with favorable tax policies that reduces the cost of production of businesses which will be participating in the 24-hour economy.
Which you've said is voluntary.
Okay. And then finally, has to do with the provision of financing support. Very important. President Mahama has spoken about it. Financing support for certain strategic agro-processing and manufacturing companies. You take certain, imports that if addressed, if cut significantly, can significantly impact on our GDP and create jobs, like rice. Look at the amount of money we spend on importing rice. You need to channel strategic financing in that sector to boost production. It is for that reason that the ex-Wal NDC Mahama government, for example, established the Ghana Exim Bank, the Ghana Export and Import Bank, to provide financing for exports. Today, that fund, which we established, has lost its bearing. It's been completely bastardized. They have deviated from their core objects. And the next NDC Mahama government will ensure that we bring them back on track and ensure that we channel funds like that, not just that, but other funds that exist.
So the
like
issues about the
that.
costs and the number of jobs we are hoping to create in that sector, because I've heard even Mr. Alabi today also mentioned up north that they are hoping to create jobs as a result of this 24-hour economy. Not just jobs, but I'm hoping we'll get the fine details.
Sustainable jobs.
You're saying. Exactly. Okay, so the fine details as to how much it's going to cost us as a nation to start implementing this, and then also the number of jobs that we are hoping to create out.
So at least I've given you four things. Of course, four things that we'll be doing. But let me add the last one. Add the last one. President Mahama has spoken about improvement of infrastructure, security, and lighting in key entertainment districts such as Abekala Pass, the Oxford Street in Osu, the Lagos Avenue in East Legon, and so on, to create that booming night economy experience that allows businesses to thrive. When you come back to me, I will be telling you
shortly.
Specific
let me go on to Zoom as well, and then we'll take questions from our audience as well, which will inform what else you tell us. But we've been joined on the phone by Zoom, the economist Professor Ebo Texin. I'm told we've lost him. Sechu Makwabwa is Executive Secretary of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. We also have on Zoom Mr. Edward Akanyamike, who is the Ghana Hotel Association President. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We also have Mona Kote, who's a former Deputy Finance Minister, also joining us via Zoom for quick inputs on this, and then it can inform how we go forward. Maybe I'll start with you, Mr. Chumakwabwa. Really, you are the manufacturers. You've heard some of the fine details that have been provided, at least security and safety issues about reliable power and cheaper power will be provided, favorable tax policies, provision of financing support, as well issues about infrastructure, he says, will be also dealt with. But really, from where you stand, we've been told that to an extent, we are already operating a 24-hour economy. Really, what's your input when it comes to this whole issue about the 24-hour economy? Mr. Chumakwabwa.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. Indeed, I'm happy Sammy has mentioned quite a couple of things that is being added to the 24-hour economy discussion. All along, what we heard was more of the number of hours and the fact that you can run shifts and do the 24 hours. That's all we're hearing. But today I'm hearing some other elements that makes it more exciting. For us, the idea of 24-hour economy, for us as businesses, anything that helps to produce more, anything that helps to increase volumes of business, we cherish it, we welcome it. And therefore, if somebody is coming out with a concept that says, I will enable you to produce more, it definitely is an interesting concept to look at. But we have cautioned that when it comes to 24-hour production system, for industry, it is already happening in a number of the businesses. But it is driven by order. It is driven by volume of business. If you don't have the volume of business to produce 24 hours, you wouldn't do so. If you have business, you have orders that you cannot satisfy within 8 hours, you run shifts. And indeed, a lot of companies run shifts. Sometimes they do 2 shifts, sometimes they do 3 shifts. But depending on the state of the economy and the demand for their products, then they may decide to cut down. Sometimes they even go to the extent of even doing less than the 8 hours, let alone increasing 15 and 24 hours. So it's all driven by demand. If it's driven by demand, then it means that any condition that helps to increase your demand we welcome you to push yourself to the running shifts, different shifts to meet that order. So that is basically the principle when it comes to business. So when the idea came up, we said, okay, we will need better particulars, we need more information, we need a comprehensive information about how this whole concept is going to run before we can make a significant pronouncement. But what Sammy has also mentioned, which I think is important, is that they are not saying that it is an end in itself. It's a means to an end. It's a way to facilitate activities to achieve your objective. So as far as you see it in that context, then it's fine. And it means that other things must be at play for it to work well. And he's mentioned a couple of them, the tax incentives, financing, provision of financial support, infrastructure, and all that. So if all these details comes, then we would see it as a good program. So it's not just the number of hours you are working, which is being emphasized, but all these other details. But as far as these other details are concerned, it's very difficult to make a judgment now. Because we've heard in different times, different periods, different regimes, promises of financial support, promise of tax incentives. Sometimes it becomes a different thing when you are faced with the reality. So many things happen in the economy, and therefore for us, it's very difficult to make a judgment or make a pronouncement on this. Perhaps if you get the details, if you say taxes, what kind of tax incentives are you talking about? How does it impact on manufacturing and industry? If you say financial support, what we need is medium to long term. Are we going to get it? Okay. Are we going to scratch the surface, or are we going to get, a better financing arrangement? At what cost is the funds coming to us? Okay. All these details we need to know. And when we get it, then that's fine. Then it will mean that the 24-hour economy encompasses a lot more. And when you put it together, then that may sound very good to us. For now, all we say is that we need further information. We need to engage further, and then we'll see how it will benefit industry.
Okay. Mr. Chumakabwa, thank you very much for your input. At this point, we would have to just let you go on this, and then we'll take Mr. Edward Nyameke, also on the Hoteliers Association. Also, he's the president, and all this giving you some input into the show, and also ask their questions as well. Mr. Nyameke, thank you so much also for joining us. If you can unmute, really, 24-hour economy, we are told that some hotels are already operating amongst others, but what would you need to make it definite in terms of what you've heard so far? That's good news, isn't it?
Right. MFA, thank you so much for the opportunity. You are very right. By the nature of the hotel business, we work around the clock 24/7 because we need to check in and check out guests depending on their reservations and their bookings. So I would like to rather look at the possible impacts of the 24-hour economy on the hotel business. First of all, I see that it's likely to increase patronage from the angle that if there is more employment, that means that more people will have money, they will have disposable income to be able to patronize hotel services. Okay. And then also the increase in business from the 24-hour economy also means that we are likely to have more international visitors to do business in the country. And of course, when they come here, they are likely to patronize hotel services. We also want to look at it from the angle where the more people are employed, the more they pay taxes, the more they pay levies to government, and we are likely to see an improvement in our infrastructure, including roads, which is very important to the hotel business. Again, with increased patronage, it means that the hotels are likely to expand their business. They are likely to expand their facilities, which also mean that they are also going to employ more workers. Okay, so look at it from that angle, it will mean that it's going to be a positive impact on the hotel industry. But as my brother said earlier on, we'll have to look at the incentives aspect, the taxes that they say they provide incentives for the industry. That's very, very important, and especially also with the affordable utilities, because as Sammy himself mentioned, it is a major issue in our business. So if the utilities regime in terms of the tariffs level does not change to make a positive impact on the industry, then we will still be at the same place. So on the surface, frankly, a 24-hour economy will impact positively on the hotel industry, and we will take advantage of that. Okay,
Dr. Kanyamike Jr., we're grateful for your time here on the probe. So at least you've heard the AGI, you've also heard the hotels, Ghana Hotels Association. Really, it's a laudable idea, but details in terms of what exactly the tax policies will entail, amongst others.
Very insightful perspectives, and we are most grateful to them for their contributions. We don't claim to be the repository of all knowledge, and so we take on board all these perspectives in the finalization and implementation of the policy when we are giving the nod in 2024, December 7th. But let me deal with just 4 issues. The first one being the argument that we already have a 24-hour economy. That is
some sectors.
You see, we are not talking about the fact that the next NDC government, under the next NDC government, companies will operate 24/7. If we said that, then that will not be novel. That will not be new. If we said that under the next NDC Mahama government, companies will operate 24/7, that will not be new, because some companies already operate 24/7. What we are talking about is that under the next NDC Mahama government, there will be a deliberate policy intervention to ensure that businesses operate 24/7. We are going to have a 24-hour economy strategy, simply put, as a country. That is novel, that is new. Because as we speak, Ghana does not have a 24-hour economy strategy like the United Kingdom has, like the United States has, like Sydney has, and so on and so forth. We don't have one. We don't have any time of use tariff system that ensures that companies who on their own operate 24/7 get cheaper power. We don't have that. We don't have any tax incentives aimed at promoting round-the-clock operations. We don't have any financing support for businesses that operate 24/7. And so to that extent, the 24-hour economy strategy we are talking about is new. Because we are not talking about a chance event. We are not talking about certain businesses based on demand, okay, or the nature of their business operating in the night or operating 24/7. Okay. This is going to be a deliberate strategy aimed at ensuring that you have 3 shifts of 8 hours each. And it is backed by a strategy, a legal framework, which will include a new Employment Act, first of its kind, which will spell out all the regulatory framework, the rights of employees, the responsibilities of employers, incentives under the program, and so on. This is a novelty, and we must admit that.
Now we are getting some details from this particular proposal that you gave. When are we hoping to get that whole policy document or implementation plan such that we all know that this is where we are going?
No political party introduces an implementation plan for a policy in opposition, because you can only implement a policy after you have won power. I'm a policy student. You mentioned the name of one of my lecturers who unfortunately Dr. Ebutexin. He will tell you that in policy implementation, stakeholder consultations are important. So the implementation
So we are still at the consultation stage?
No, the implementation plan will be after 2024 elections. But as for the blueprints of the policy, the details of the policy, what it entails, the incentive, what we have in mind, the concept of the policy, that will be out as part of our 2024 manifesto. Okay. That will be.
Do you have an idea how much it's going to cost us? Do we have an idea? Because you've heard them. That we'll have to wait for the details.
So the first thing is that you can say that a few companies already operate 24/7. And that is not what we are talking about. Okay. What we are talking about is a 24-hour economy strategy, which is non-existent in Ghana. What we are talking about is a novelty. What we are talking about is going to be a deliberate intervention to create that booming 24-hour economy and have a lot of businesses, company, and public services running 24/7. Number 2 is the question of, you can't legislate it. So what is it? It won't work. That is an untenable argument, to be very charitable. Because the 24-hour economy idea we are talking about is going to be a strategy.
Government strategies is also going to be voluntary as well.
Yes, and government strategies are not legislated as a matter of compulsion. Government's responsibility is to use policies, programs, strategies to create an enabling environment for the necessary public services to be delivered efficiently, for citizens to get better services, and also for the private sector to thrive. Once you do that, when empower businesses will automatically take advantage of the tax incentives, of the cheaper power, of the financing support, of the security arrangements we are going to put in place. So that is it. Those who say that we are not legislating it, I wonder what economic strategy in Ghana has in and of itself been legislated as a matter of compulsion. The failed 1D1F policy was not legislated. The failed Planting for Food and Jobs scam was not legislated. The failed One Village, One Dam initiative was not legislated. These are These were supposed, at least for what we were told.
Planting for food and jobs will be argued that it is not failed. It's still being implemented.
Kennedy Japan tells you that it's failed, and the evidence shows that it has failed.
You go with what Kennedy Japan said, as against what pertains on the ground.
What pertains on the ground is what? Food inflation hovering around 47%. The highest, one of the highest in the world. In fact, it's part of Ghana today is one of the top 10 countries with the highest food inflation in the world. If it is working, why do we have food inflation at that level? Why is it that our imports are going up?
Okay.
So that is a part about legislation. The third point that I want to make, which is the point about demand, a very important issue. Like the CEO of AGI said, that without the demand, you cannot say that businesses should operate around the clock. But this is my answer to that I think they should think about. You see, we are in a country that consumes a lot. Unfortunately, 90% or more of the things we consume in this country are imported. Day in, day out, importers bring in these commodities, including food, the things we wear, pharmaceuticals, and people buy, and they always go. Because they know that when we bring it, there is a market for it, there is demand for it. So the things we are talking about, when we talk about modernization of agriculture, agro-processing, manufacturing, so giving incentives for all these industries to thrive, the demand already exists in Ghana largely. What you need to do is to create an enabling environment that enables our businesses to be competitive and allows them to produce at a comparative cost. Because the problem is that because of the high cost of doing business in Ghana, they are not able to be competitive, they are not able to compete with cheaper and in some cases subsidized imports. Once there is cheaper power, once there are significant tax incentives, financing support, and so on, they will be able to produce at a comparative cost, and the already existing demand in the country will absorb it. Again, we are
all this. It looks like all this will be private sector led. Is that
not just mainly private sector led? But I'll talk about the sectors.
Let me bring it. Let me bring in the questions.
Conclude on that.
Sammy, let me bring in
questions. I beg you. Just
the questions will help you answer all those questions.
If I can just conclude on this point. So the existing demand is there. President Mahama has also spoken about how we can induce demand further in this country by using the procurement power of government. Because as you know, government is the biggest spender in the economy. Once we roll out a policy that promotes a Buy Ghana agenda and ensure that all ministries, department, agencies are buying made in Ghana, whatever you're producing, there will be a market for that. Beyond that, there is AFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, that we need to take advantage of. We are a member of the WTO trade facilitation, arrangement and so on. Even the ECOWAS trade liberalization arrangement, we're a member, and we can take advantage not only of the domestic markets relative to import substitution, but even of these international markets as well. And finally, in just 5 seconds, the sectors. Somebody will say, what sectors do we have in mind? President Mahama has said that there will not be any limits to the implementation of the 24-hour economy strategy based on sectors, but some primary sectors have been outlined, and I'll quickly go through them. 24
You don't know the questions coming. It would tackle all these issues. Just wait on that.
Sure.
And let's take at least the first batch of questions. I'm told also we have the former Deputy Finance Minister, Mbona Kote, also on Zoom with a quick input on this. Maybe I'll speak to her briefly. Then we can go into the questions that we have. Then Sammy can go on with that. You want us to start with questions? Let me bring in Madame Mbona Kote first. So thank you so much for joining us. We've been looking at the NDPC document from which we are told that this 24-hour economy was birthed. You've been in government. You've already heard the criticism about the fact that it appears this is just a sloganeering, and how come it wasn't priority for your party going into the 2020 elections, amongst others. Briefly, your input when it comes to this particular 24-hour economy.
Thank you, MFA, and hello to all your listeners and to Sammy and Edward and Seth. Basically, in terms of it being in the 2020 manifesto that we had, it was there squarely under job creation. As Sammy said, it may not have reached the audience, but it was squarely there for purposes of job creation. So we had it there. In terms of the NDPC 40-year document, that gives us the vision of Ghana wanting to be a high-income country by probably 2057. And in order to get there, you must have a roadmap, you must have a plan. I believe that this proposed policy intervention, the 24-hour economy described by Sammy and put out by President John Mahama's group and team, is one of the important ways of achieving this. There is no doubt that this concept is going to be a game changer to rescue Ghana from the current economic doldrums. MFA, you know the issues at hand. We are recovering from the COVID pandemic. We are recovering from poor leadership. And therefore, we do need a roadmap that will take us to where we've always said we wanted to be, the bright medium-term future. Now, this concept is definitely in keeping up with global economic progress and also strengthening our global supply link chain. So Ghana is a valuable economic partner, and that role must be enhanced because, as you know, we provide very valuable raw materials into the global market. Again, we cannot even view this concept only as demand-driven, even though it may be primarily so, but also as supply-driven, as Sammy mentioned, for competitive advantage and so forth. But it also brings efficiency and better pricing. We do have the natural resources, especially the agricultural produce, which will benefit from value addition to reduce post-harvest loss and also increase shelf life, which has become very important. This helps us to smoothen out supplies throughout the seasons, MFA, so we don't have prices gyrating all over the place. So it allows for better access of inputs to the industry and outputs for individuals and markets, lower prices, reduced costs, better overall cost and quality of life for all of us Ghanaians.
Okay.
There's no doubt that it will increase our GDP as a nation, but more importantly, it will allow us, together with the other key drivers that are needed and detailed in the NDPC 40-year strategy, to create a strategy that will allow us not only to grow on our own as a nation, but to collaborate under the ECOWAS protocols with the West African region to use infrastructure like ports, refineries, pipelines, and so forth to grow. A key driver here is going to be capital. How do we create the capital that we require to drive the strategy? We know we have restricted access to capital markets right now because of the mess that we are in. However, we need to think critically about that as a nation and as an incoming government. And I believe we are the incoming government. We need to think about capital formation to support infrastructure, both logistics, technology, and physical infrastructure. So that is going to become very important. And even markets in wholesaling and retailing, some of these important things. And President Mahama already spoke about the markets modernization program. So yes, we will have the day economy, but this other economy, which has 3 shifts, will improve the day economy. It will allow us to have lower tariff rates during the evenings and nights. It will lead to
Madam
a higher productivity.
We'll have to leave it here. I'm so sorry, but we'll have to leave it here. And I know that we'll engage. I know we'll engage further on this. Let me not leave out the audience at this point. Let's just bring in a few questions. Then we can talk about the sectors and then wrap up on this. And we'll engage further on 24-hour economy. It's not going away anytime soon. Yeah, if you're ready with the questions, I see Edward's question: how can the NDC convince Ghanaians this 24-hour economy is not one of the souvenirring Ghanaian politicians are known for? And Sammy has been speaking to this. We've heard Monacote also. Sule says, has the NDC done any survey or discussed with the businesses why they are not operating 24/7 and what it would take to operate in the 24-hour economy? Quickly, Sultan says, are there specific sectors the NDC will prioritize for the 24-hour economy? And that's where Sammy wants to come in quickly. And Kweku says the NDC have done well with the marketing of the policy, but they haven't discussed how much it will cost the state to provide tax incentives and lower tariffs for the businesses. For an economy that is always recording huge budget deficits and collecting very little in taxes, how will the state pay for the cost of this program? At least these questions capture everything, and it takes us at least into the sectors. Let's start with that.
Well, like I indicated, there will not be any limit to the implementation of the 24-hour economy strategy based on sectors, but certain key sectors will be prioritized, and that has already been put out by President Mahama. These are 24-hour agro-processing, 24-hour pharmaceutical industry, 24-hour manufacturing industry, 24-hour construction industry, 24-hour extractive industry. Here we are talking about mining and quarrying, 24-hour sanitation and waste management industry, 24-hour leisure and hospitality industry, 24-hour digital startups, and business process outsourcing to ensure automation and seamless operations, as President Mahama said, 24-hour financial services, 24-hour retail centers, 24-hour transportation services, and 24-hour public institutions such as our ports and harbors. Today, TACRADE doesn't operate 24/7. NPS does to a limited extent, with many challenges because customs still doesn't operate 24/7, and the financial institutions don't operate 24/7. Once you get customs and the financial services at the ports operating 24/7, the ports can run 24/7, and you can create a lot of sustainable jobs through that. Then you can have the passport office operating 24/7. You know what that would do?
As it stands now, is it not operating 24/7?
Passport service, no?
At least with applying online.
No, we created an online
others.
application system in 2014 under the leadership of.
But as it stands now, at least
you can only
still apply online.
round the clock online. But
yeah.
application for a passport is just one component of the process of getting a passport.
Okay, so beyond
you need
the
to go there to take a picture. You need to go there to get your passport printed for you. Today, if you apply for a passport in Kumasi, do you know the date you get for an appointment? April 2024. If you apply for a passport in Accra, you are likely to get April and then Kumasi May. So the process is still very tedious and slow. Okay. That is why you need these institutions to operate 24/7.
Okay.
If the passport service is operating 24/7, you can imagine the impact on small.
Do we have transport sector? Do we have the
yes,
transport sector in there?
Because the man.
But as it stands now, the issue about infrastructure when it comes to transport sector, what we've seen in
why do you even have to worry about
landing
infrastructure when
others?
you're talking about a policy being introduced by the king of infrastructure?
Okay.
The most revolutionary transformation of the infrastructure of this country happened under the tenure of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Whether it is Ghana Gas, whether the hospitals, the road
because the
network,
concern is about the public transport not operating amongst
has
others.
Been,
really,
we have considered that,
okay,
and that has been captured in the policy. And when we put out the blueprint, you see all that. But I was telling you that, you see, if you have passport offices and all these key state institutions operating 24/7, the man who runs a photocopy business at the passport service will not be closing at 6 again. He will be running round the clock 24/7. The one who sells banku during the day there will be selling kelewele and indomie in the evening into the night. You see, so that is how the 24-hour economy strategy will impact even the SME sector. And we've said that we are going to implement this policy within the context of our national development initiatives such as education and training, health services, agriculture, and what have you. Now, there are some who also say that the modernization of markets is also one thing that which is very important to this policy. But there are some who have said that, how do we trust that this is not yet another rhetoric or slogan? Listen, it's a very important issue to raise because anybody can promise you anything. What matters is whether or not you can trust them. And I can put my head on the chopping block any day, any time, that you can trust John Mahama with your life. You can take him at his word. His track record is there. If he can't do it, he won't say it. What he says he will do, he delivers. And you can look around you, whether it is the area of road, hospital, schools, job, the evidence is there. Modernization of markets, the evidence is there. When we talk about tax incentives, we are talking about a man who introduced a stimulus package of $25 million for pharmaceutical industries in this country when he had the opportunity to serve as president.
Okay, well, the concern about work-life balance and social life has come up. At least you've even heard the jokes about people wondering how they're going to have time with their wives and husbands. But the work-life balance, social life.
Our economy doesn't mean working without break. It means working multiple shifts, like it pertains in advanced economies where we go. When Bawumia was schooling abroad, he was schooling during the day and working in the night. He's benefited from a 24-hour economy. But today he's telling the young people of this country that if you want to operate 24 hours, you are on your own, you can do it. He forgets that where he schooled and worked under a 24-hour economy system, the governments of those jurisdictions had a deliberate intervention to support businesses to run 24/7. So look, 24-hour economy with multiple 3 shifts of 8 hours each means that if you are on a night shift, you can rest during the day.
Okay.
If you are on a day shift, you can rest during the night. And this will be rotational. This is basic. This is trial.
And the conversation has just begun.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, we're really out of time.
Your time is up.
Yes, I have to wrap up.
I just want to conclude and say that you can trust President Mahama. If for nothing at all, Terminal 3 runs 24/7. The Ghana Gas we established, which has created jobs for thousands of people, run 24/7. The MPS Port Terminal, which has made Temaport the second biggest in the whole of West Africa, runs 24/7. The Accra Digital Center, which is the largest business process outsourcing center in Ghana, with a capacity to host 10,000 young people, well-versed in IT, working for various businesses and companies across the globe in different time zones, and which has the capacity to employ close to 30,000 under a 24-hour economy with 3 shifts, was built by the nation builder, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
And that's the National Communications
deliver on this
Officer.
promise, and you can trust him to do so.
Thank you so much, Sammy. We have to leave it here. That's the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sammy Gyamfi. I almost said John Dramani Mahama. Thank you so much for your time here on The Probe. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. For our radio audience,
I have this brochure for you.
Thank you.
I'm
hoping that the cost. Okay, I'm hoping that to answer the issues about cost as well. That will be later, you say. All right. Thank you so much. I am MFA. On behalf of the entire team, many thanks for your company. Have a good evening.